with, Ram. Fact or fiction? Gabriel's injury is Mikel Arteta's fault. His lack of rotation this season is to blame.
Oh, I really want to troll, but nah, I'm not going to troll. It's fiction. It's fiction. Like, at the end of the day, injuries happen. Shit happens. If you play the amount of football that footballers play on a regular basis, not like 5 or 10 years ago where there was such little football. Now these players are expected to play around about 60 to 70 games a season, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy, the amount of football these guys are playing. So to see people get injured majority of the time, and now clubs starting to buy a lot bigger squads, a lot more talent, it's like, come on, man. Like, you buy these players to make sure that there's no injuries, or you won't feel the losses of all these big players. And you just got to take it on the chin, man. This has been happening for quite a long time. Like, injuries are now going to be a common occurrence for your best players. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's a situational thing. If it's the case that, it was like a coming together, or it's like a muscular injury that Arteta knew about, which I don't think he knew about, it just happened out of nowhere, then yeah. But to all
this guy, man, Arsenal FC, not Arteta FC.
Yeah, I've got a question. Let me respond to this comment, because obviously, and by the way, everyone who's tuning in, please like and share. If you're watching over on X, we have about 1,300 people watching on X. If you want to come and join us now on YouTube, that'd be absolutely amazing. The stream won't go the full way through on X, so click on the link, come and join the community right now. That would be amazing if you would. But I want to ask this account a question, and I want to see if you've got the nous about you and the chest about you to answer this question as accurately as you can. So you want to see more rotation. Can you list right now the types of games and the level of opponents that you want to see? And I'm going to name your core players. So Raya, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, Rice, Zubimendi, Saka, Gyökeres. I'm naming those 8, right? We'll just keep it with those 8. Those 8 players. What games do you want to see them not involved with this season? So you need to name the competition, round, and the level of opponent you're against where you are very happy not to see them. And this isn't a setup, because I'll tell you why I'm asking. Because this is my one pushback to the people saying it's on Arteta. I remember him rotating that type of player out of your team for early League Cup fixtures, FA Cup fixtures, etc., and being lambasted when your team lost or didn't play well and not taking the cup seriously. So what I'm asking of everyone blaming Arteta is if you would indulge us and tell us when you don't want to see those players. And the reason I want an honest answer is because we can screenshot it and save it in a file. And then if you rotate those players for a certain game and get beat, of course you can blame the players on the pitch, you can blame the tactics on the day. But what I don't want to see from any of you is moaning that rotation happened. So are you willing to list that on, and we'll put it up on screen for posterity now, or are you going to walk away with your towel between your legs? Let us know, people. Over to the panel. Seb, what do you make of this claim? I see a lot of people online blaming Mikel Arteta for the injury. What's your take on it, mate?
Well, it's ludicrous. To my knowledge, he has been rested a couple of games this season anyway. And who rotates this? No one rotates their best centre-back pairing. To my knowledge, no one really ever does that, because you have cohesion in there. So, and he got injured on international duty. Even Ancelotti came out and did an interview about it. He apologised. There wasn't a recurring injury there. It wasn't like he came in injured. I was obviously at the game. All he did was he stretched for a ball. He stretched too hard. If anything, you're putting it on Gabriel for trying too hard in a friendly game, because he's overly stretching to try and score a goal. But to put it on Arteta makes. Honestly, it's just like, what do you want to do? If we had a league game where every league game is now important, look what happened against Sunderland. We dropped points. So imagine if Arteta drops his best centre-back for a game and we drop points, there'd be absolute meltdown. So who are you dropping him against regardless? I wouldn't be dropping centre-back pairings. Maybe if we're playing like Sparta Prague in the Champions League or in the League Cup, yeah, we can afford to drop him when we're playing lower league opposition. But no one drops their best centre-back pairing, to my knowledge, like ever. So I'm not going to have a go at him. Yes, we have squad depth at the back, but I can understand slightly maybe if he was playing for Arsenal, he got a little bit of a niggle, and then Arteta didn't take him off, then you could say, yes, that's Arteta's fault. But he was playing for Brazil. He was fully fit. He overstretched for a ball. These things happen. So the fact that Arteta outers have had nothing to complain about all season, there's something they can try and get on. So they're like, they're like vultures. Honestly, it's like one little bit happens and they're leaping on it. So honestly, if anyone is actually having this opinion and they're being serious, then they need to just watch football and tell me when he should have been dropped, because I don't see a game where he has played where it'd have been worth dropping him. Especially in the season where you're having a meltdown where we're drawing games.
Yeah. My question would be, did this injury not happen in Brazil, with Brazil? Like, what does Arteta have to do with this? Like, from the reports I saw, and excuse me for not remembering the name of the lady who gave the report on Sky. She said that that Gabriel trained separately on Brazil training than the rest of the squad because he was having an injury. And yet Ancelotti decided in a meaningless friendly to play him in the starting 11. Now, that's not Arteta's decision. Arteta is powerless at that point. I know people like to say that, the manager, the clubs have input. But once these players are away on international duty, it's up to the international manager to decide whether he plays or not. It's up to the medical staff with Brazil to determine if this player is fit enough to play or worth risking in a game of such little magnitude. It's got nothing to do with Mikel Arteta. As Terry said, I remember Nkapie started the League Cup game against Brighton. I remember Mosquera and Saliba started the League Cup game against Port Vale. I don't see Gabriel playing in any meaningless games. I think what's happened here is pretty simple. He's gone away on international duty. They selected him. If he had some sort of injury issues, they overlooked that. They selected him. You don't know if the Arsenal Football Club said, "Hey, look, we think he's got a little bit of something. Maybe we recommend that you don't pick him." And then Brazil goes ahead and goes, "You know what? But we want him so badly in the team. We'll pick him anyway." It's up to, like, Arteta could only advise to a certain extent. After that, it's all up to Brazil and Ancelotti. And to blame Arteta for this, I think, is an absolute joke, honestly.
Do you know what's quite interesting? I was looking at his stats, and he did come on against Port Vale, and he did come on against Brighton for the last 20 minutes of those games when you were winning. He's played every minute of the Premier League, and he's been subbed off twice in the Champions League so far this season. So with 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 games, he has done 90 minutes in 15 of them, which you wouldn't say is abnormal for your best and main centre-back, considering 14 of those games have been in the 15 of those 17 games have been in Champions League and Premier League, and you're trying to win them. The one thing about the Port Vale and the Brighton game is I felt he came on for two reasons that late in those games: to see it through, but equally, this is why I sometimes think this comes back to agendas. I remember Bernardo Silva talking about this about 3 years ago, and it was in the campaign where Arsenal were playing one game a week. The season where you nearly made it into the Champions League, but the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you kind of fell off. And that was the 21-22 season. And I remember that because it was the summer of the 22 season where I said you were scary. And I always remember getting pelters for it. I was like, I've only said they're going to become title contenders. And you did. But anyway. And I remember listening to Bernardo Silva talk, because all year the rhetoric amongst fans was playing once a week is easier for you than playing twice a week. And I know that Chelsea won a Premier League doing that under Antonio Conte, so a lot of people thought it. But I remember listening to Bernardo Silva talk, and ever since then, I've heard so many players, Mo Salah, speak on this. The Arsenal players have spoken on it. With such regularity, there seems to be more anecdotal evidence that players prefer 2 games a week. It keeps them in their rhythm. It keeps their fitness levels up. So bringing on players for the last 20 minutes of games that you're already leading in doesn't seem crazy to me in terms of risking their bodies. It's almost what they want, and it's what the sports science says. The fact is, he had a niggle, was training separately, and Brazil decided to play him. I also look at the player here, and I know everybody wants to play for their country because everyone's got a limited amount of time. At the same time, you know you've got a niggle. It's not a World Cup qualifier. It's not a massively important game. Maybe because it was at the Emirates and he's Brazilian, that kind of was in his mindset. But if I was Arteta, I'd be talking to him and saying, what are you doing? Why have you got a strain and you're playing in an absolute meaningless game? And I think that Arteta, that's the one area I might look at Arteta and say, be a little more forceful with it. Fergie was the master at making players not play for their country when they had problems or whatever else. But blaming Arteta from a physical aspect, I find it's, for me, I think what you said is right, Seb. It is clutching at straws. The Arteta out mob have had almost nothing to moan about for 8 or 9 weeks. The Arteta out mob remind me of the media right now with England, and we'll get onto this more later, but there's nothing to attack England for at the minute. So they're finding a reason to create mountains out of molehills with Bellingham. I think that's what Arteta outers are doing. They're going, right, top of the league, joint top of the Champions League, we're barely conceding, we're winning most of our games, we're scoring goals. You know, we're on course for a record-breaking defensive year. What is there to moan about? Nothing. Let's wait and find something out. And yeah, it's very strange to me that there's so much venom for Arteta on this particular injury. And as you say, he's overstretched for a ball as well. These things do just happen. You know, we've got Benjamin Šeško at Man United. Barely kicked a ball this year in comparison to Arsenal players. Gets his studs caught in the ground. Is going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. If you don't include these 2 weeks, another 3 to 4 weeks more. Sky have actually updated their update. It's not a whole month he's out for. It's up to a month. These things happen. It's not Arteta. It's not. The people probably would blame Arteta, to be fair. Oh, if Arteta would have signed him, he might not be fit. It's his fault. But yeah, very strange behaviour for me.
As well, for me, it was coming from the guy I was sat next to, because he was an Arsenal fan as well, and we were talking about it. And he said the exact right thing for me. He said, well, we claim we have great squad depth and we have squad depth across the pitch. Why are we that worried about one player getting injured? Yeah. We've got Mosquera in there. We've got Hikampié, and it's just a time to test our squad depth and see if we are actually that good. And when they have played those two, they've looked great. So I think it's just panic for panic's sake.
Well, that would have been my next thing, Seb, is that, like, while Gabriel is definitely one of our greatest players, and we're going to miss him because of the level of player that he is, if we start Hikampié, Calafiori, Saliba and Timber against Tottenham, I'm not sweating it. Like that's how good this squad is. So, like, and by the way, I would love to see Calafiori play the role he played for Italy now. Playing from left center back for Arsenal. It would be an interesting experiment to make as well. So.
This comment here says all of our players are overworked in training and in games with the way we play. We play players through injury. We'll bring Saka on in cup games, etc.
That was last season. The Saka coming on, but
yeah. I mean, the Saka thing we've spoken on before. He also says he played Rice with a broken toe. Played Whites for 3 months when he needed surgery. Lied. He didn't play. Timber admitted he was injured and told Arteta, and he didn't take him off.
Yeah, these are all circumstances that happened in past seasons where we didn't have the squad depth. I don't think the Gabriel injury has anything to do with those examples you've outlaid whatsoever. I think it's a completely different scenario.
What you haven't, he also said Arteta is a maniac and narcissist who does not care for any of the players. But what you haven't done yet, my bro, is listed when, what rounds, what teams, what levels. What you haven't done is set out your stall around what you want to see and when. Again, I believe the reason you won't set it out is because if you leave it ambiguous, that way, if you go out of a cup competition, if he's done the things you've asked and the squad's not been good enough, you want to be able to blame the manager for disrespecting the competition, so you won't say. Equally, I agree. There are sometimes managers have all done this where they played a player when they shouldn't. I'll give you an example. The greatest manager of all time, Rooney hurt his ankle against Bayern Munich, first leg in the Champions League. I think it was the quarterfinals in 2010. And Rooney was rushed back that week for the second leg. And we were magnificently opening 15 minutes. And we would have been magnificent without Rooney. Rooney was part of it, but he wasn't a linchpin. Actually, Nani was killing it. Antonio Valencia was amazing. And then we ended up losing the game. We got a dodgy red card. There was a great volley from Robin and it knocked us out. But Rooney hurt the ankle again. And it kind of scarpered us a little bit for the remainder of the season. We got away with bits and pieces, but that was on the manager. Managers make these mistakes. So I'm not going to sit there. he can be criticized. Where I will defend the managers is I've never met a pro player at the top level. And it's important to remember that, competing for leagues, Champions Leagues. I've never met a pro that said they were ever playing without knocks and niggles and strains and little injuries. Again, if Arteta was to drop every player who had any level of strain or tight muscle or minor injuries, you would never have a full squad. It'd be impossible. How do I know that? Just through anecdotal reading of autobiographies, listening to football players, American football players, fighters talk. People are rarely perfect. So the issue is, what I'd also like you to state is, what level of strain or injury should there be zero tolerance to? And that's my one pushback to everyone blaming Arteta. You're fine to blame him, but you've got to set a standard. You've got to set a standard of, well, if it's any more than a dead leg, they've got to be dropped from the team. At least then, if you've got 15 players out because they've all got slight pulls and they're a little bit fatigued, you can't moan about the squad being bad. But what I'd love is for you to set the stall. But that's my issue with this. It very much feels like you're trying to poison the well. You have some challenges, I think, that hold water and are right. But what you won't do is set a standard as to where, as long as he does this, you're going to be okay with him. Why won't you set that standard? Sorry, you were going to say something, Seb.